Hey, everybody. For those of you that don't know me, I'm Tom Munns, and I'd like to share something with you today. I haven't been on the air for a while, at least on social media and whatever, but I wanted to be able to share with you a little bit about my new venture. Um, it's been some time since I was with, let's see, I guess I should say where to start. I've been politically active for probably 20 years or so. And I got a chance to know a lot of people. I got a chance to learn a lot. And I got a chance to meet all of the leaders and all of the people that had been acting, joining these groups and things in an effort to be able to try to restore or maintain liberty in Idaho. And uh, I ended up leaving the John Birch Society after working there for 11 years in pursuit of better money. And several months later, I found myself unemployed and at a crossroads. And at the age of 62, obviously I'm at retirement age where I could choose the direction that I want to go. And I felt like I still had some gas in the tank. And as many of you know me, I have a passion, extreme passion for civic engagement, politics, and information and education, and visiting with other people. So at this point, after serious contemplation for several months, I decided to put some pen to paper, and I decided to say, if I were going to create an organization, what would it look like? And the other question I had was, what would it take for me to continually support this organization? Now, you know as well as I do, people join organizations grow, they have their heyday, and they start to decline. Some of them that have done a really good job are still around today. But I wanted to be able to address some other issues that I had experienced in the state without being derogatory or disrespecting anyone, because the ultimate goal of my journey is to do more with networking with people and working alongside of them while I operate within my own lane, um, and talk about things that some people aren't talking about. So, I had written a little bit of an outline, and I'd like to be able to share that with you just so you have some basic understanding. So, the organization that I decided to create, and a couple of board members helped me bring this to fruition, which is awesome. You can check that out on our About page, um, is to ask the question, how did Idaho Ripple Effect come to be? That's the name of of our nonprofit right now is called Idaho Ripple Effect. And obviously, most people are understand the phrase about ripples and the change that they make and things of that nature. And I think it epitomized what I believed needed to be done. So I've been involved as much as I could be for as long as I could be. I know many of you, you know many of me. We've always been networking with other people, with other like-minded people. Um, and as those groups tend to dwindle, so did our networking abilities. And so we started going other places, trying to find the best place that we could be to where the things that we were doing, we might find some success in the things that we're doing. But in my travels working with JBS, traveling a six-state area and primarily all around Idaho, I had listened to people's frustrations. I had conversations with many people about, how they felt about this issue, how frustrated they were with current events, the apathy of the people, the lack of information, um, you know, um, why don't you do this or you guys don't do anything and all of that. And so, without going on longer about that, the organization that I created is specifically in response to the conversations that I've had with many of you uh, uh, and some of the thoughts and feelings that you have about what you've experienced. Um, the I also noticed that every year now we have a legislative session that just started opening up, and my main fear is the utilization of a phrase that we always hear. We always talk about doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result is the definition of insanity on one hand. And although we know that on one hand, we seem to simply continue to operate that way on the other. And at least that's in my view, and I felt like something more could be done. So, you guys all know the importance of the name, but as far as what I'm talking about, the idea of the ripple effect invokes the interconnectedness of the actions and the consequences that we have, much like ripples spreading across a body of water, and that our name reflects the intent to initiate things in a way that things haven't been done before. We could be better connected, and I'll go into some of that in a little bit. And some of these things. Again, I want all of you to understand, I have no intention of railroading anybody, sidelining anybody, but there is still enough that needs to be done, and I know that you will understand what I'm saying by the time that I'm done, while being able to promote some of the good work that people are doing. And so that is where I hope to be. So I'll be working with other people. So what is Idaho Ripple Effect? Well, Idaho Ripple Effect is a year-round statewide organization, or desire to be statewide organization, committed to networking, collaboration, communication, education, and learning. We all know that learning is an important part of education, and to be able to say that we educate without saying that we're willing to learn is just a bit short-sighted. And so some of the things that I believe, and you can see our core beliefs on our About page, we believe that most people desire freedom. In some way, shape, or form, people really desire their own freedom. Well, whether it's our definition of freedom or not, that's to be debated. But we all understand that people desire to be left alone. They want to be able to enjoy the happiness and have a life free from undue influences that sort of disrupt their lives. But this requires a clear understanding of the things like human nature. Most of the time when people say, well, I have rights, they don't understand how humans work. I mean, how that we've throughout history worked with ourselves and worked with other people. We also need to talk about our unique system of government and how it differs from other forms of government. And I believe that that's something that should be done continually. But it's also important that we talk about the potential risks of losing the sights of these foundational principles, and of course, identifying the obstacles in the way of that end. Idaho Ripple Effect aims to bridge divides by meeting people where they are. I always say meeting people where they are and taking them where I hope they wish to go. Not in a authoritarian way, but in an effort to be able to help people understand the issues. And part of understanding an issue is understanding both sides of the issue, because Sun Tzu was pretty clear in his book, Art of War, that if we didn't understand our enemy and ourselves, we would be imperiled in every battle. So what do we really do and how? And basically, why are we different, right? That's what you're going to want to know. So, okay, so gosh, we got one more organization. I don't want to give another penny to another organization. And I get that. I understand that. And when I was better funded, I gave to everybody that I felt like was worth it. Some people now are offended by that, and whatever that may be is what it is. But I still believe that there is room enough to expand what we're doing, and I'm no exception to that rule. I'm looking at an 8-prong approach here. Some of it may sound like I'm just like everybody else, and I think the proof will be in the pudding once you see the work starting to unfold and how we're operating. But we are going to use the core principles as a guide. I'll go through those. We believe in outreach and engagement, community, communication and education, collaboration and coalition building, mission and vision, action and support, reputation and accountability, and resource development. Now, you could say, well, gosh, Tom, that sounds like a lot. How are you going to do? I'm with you, but how are you going to do all that? Well, most of you that have a professional job or whatever, and there's a list of things that you're supposed to be doing. And some organizations have a huge list. I know when I started with the John Birch Society, my list was huge. And I thought, how am I going to get all this done? And it didn't matter, because if I accepted the job, I would agree to the terms of that contract. Well, like that, yeah, I may have a long list of things to do, but the effectiveness of how well I do them isn't necessarily upon my shoulders necessarily, because I'm merely providing the framework for other people to operate to be able to increase its success. Now, I'm going to do everything I can to be as successful as I can on my own, but how successful really are we as a one-man band anyway? And so it's important for us, and this is why the networking portion is so important. And so And if our core principles, for example, we have a nonpartisan approach. We have a problem. Everybody's like, they either hate the Republican Party or they love the Republican Party, and that's all they talk about. Oh, well, we got to work on PCs, and we got to, knock on door to door, and we got to do all that. Hey, I'm not condemning you. That's all great. Do whatever you feel like you have to do. But for me, I want to be able to operate in a much greater realm. I want to be able to have much more of an influence and a much wider influence than just politics. And I believe that politics, as we all know, is rather divisive. Now, currently, we've got infighting in the GOP, where you have the establishment people and you have the radical extremist people, and they're at odds. And the problem is nobody can agree on anything. Even though there's a platform that defines who people are, they just want to believe what they want to believe, and they think that a platform should just be some sort of guide where nobody has to adhere to it. That's problematic because if we operate that way in our constitutional republic, we can see why nobody adheres to the limitations of government, maximizing the freedom for the people. So we're also going to be focusing on issues and not people or political parties. So we're not going to be slinging attacks at, the Republicans. We're not going to be slinging attacks at the Democrats. We're not going to be attacking certain people because they don't measure up to our standards. Because what that actually does is it doesn't grow liberty. Heather Scott, years ago, I think it was her, she created a website called Growing Freedom. And the key word is growing. And if you're not growing, you're dying. I think you hear that in church. And the importance for us is to be able to remember and to periodically consider where we are and what needs to be adjusted in order to move forward. And part of those, and one of those things just happens to be your willingness to be able to communicate with people outside of your influence to grow your influence and not contract it and cause damage to it. And there's way too much damage now, where I always refer to us as eating our own children. I mean, when I start being attacked by people that I've stood arm in arm with, we have a problem. And so then there's issues relating to ego, I think, and some other sorts of issues. And those things really have no place in us if we want to grow anything other than ourselves. So we're not going to be focusing on ourselves that way. We're going to be focusing on the issues, and not issues that affect Republicans, but issues that affect all Americans or all Idahoans, no matter what, regardless of what party or religion you happen to be a part of. The other part that goes hand in hand with this is respect and civility. Now, I used to slay the dragon too. I mean, if somebody didn't believe me, I would just use a bigger 2x4. And it took me a long time to realize that just isn't going to work. It doesn't matter if you wrap it with fur or fuzz or if you pad it. No matter what, you're not going to be able to reach out to people if you're attacking them. And I think it's really important that we understand that. And I think understanding their perspective as they hope to understand yours can only help to bring us where we need to be. And I just see so little of that these days. Um, the um, the One of those core principles is my continual commitment to individual liberty. Now, I'm not interested in collective liberty. I'm not interested in associations and NGOs and all of these unconstitutional, ungodly things. I'm interested in my commitment that has been the same as it's always been. Somebody's going to look at me or hear me in this video and say, look, that Tom, he's just becoming lukewarm. And, God says that, you can't be lukewarm in all of these different issues, but they don't really understand who I am well enough, and they don't understand my intent. And I'm hoping that will change, because if people are putting each other in labels, and put us in boxes, it's not going to be effective for anyone. So that's really the core principle side. The outreach and engagement part, and some of this may be redundant because, it just might be, and I have to work on eliminating that. But one-on-one and group interaction. Now, when I was a coordinator for the John Birch Society, one of the most important things that I've enjoyed, and I enjoyed it even before then, which is I think why I became a coordinator, is the one-on-one interaction I had with you. I got a chance to know you. I got a chance to know your wife or your husband. I got a chance to know your kids. I got a chance to know how you felt about issues. Many of you have shared personal things with me about, whether it's religious philosophies or whether it's anything else. And that's all part of relationship building. And that's what I exist for. I love to communicate with people, regardless of what position that you take, because that's the way I learn more. I want to learn about people. I want to learn what affects them, and I want to learn how I can help them. So building personal relationships and traveling around the state. I had a multi-state area, but I realized that a multi-state area is too big. My heart is in Idaho, but if my heart is not Ada County. My heart, although I live in Canyon County, is not Canyon County. My heart is for the state of Idaho. And I think what we need to do as organizations is to be able to focus on the state entirely. I want to know what's going on in Power County. I want to know what's going on in Bannock County. I want to know what's going on in Bonner County. I want to know what's going on in Owyhee County. Don't you? I mean, don't you want to understand what the media is not covering? You know, if you are experiencing issues in your area, wouldn't it be nice to know how many other areas are focusing on those same issues? The compounded networking ability that can be achieved through that could change the face of politics in Idaho if we would all see that. So and one of the other things I used to do is I used to be invited to speak to groups. Yeah, we had chapters and things, and I spoke to the chapters, but I got to speak to different groups. I got a chance to speak at the legislature for several years when I was invited, speak to other groups, which I think we need more of. But that's a really important way to be able to help be a part of the movement and to try to maintain or restore what we've lost in the state of Idaho just merely by challenging people on what their assumptions are about forms of government and particular policies or what have you. And so statewide awareness campaigns are hugely important. I mean, we had launched, we specialized in getting us out of the UN, support your local police, regardless of how you feel about that. The Article 5 convention, nobody's even talking about the anti-side of a CONCOM except for the John Birch Society, but yet people are putting the John Birch Society in a box saying, oh, those are a bunch of radical conspiracy theorists. And I'm waiting for people to see what they're going to say now about me since I'm no longer the coordinator for the John Birch Society. My point is, I've learned a lot from the John Birch Society, and part of what I'm trying to do here is to be able to take the good things that I'm finding from organizations and begin to implement them statewide. People are not interested in federal issues. People are interested in what's happening in their backyard. People are interested in what's happening in the state. The only thing they're interested in federally is the presidency. So this is why I've decided that it was more important for me to bring it back home a little bit. Door-to-door outreach is huge. We've got people that knock on 1,000 doors to try to get somebody to vote for a candidate. My question is, what happens after that? Do they have to knock on the same doors, to be able to tell them who to vote for next? And how is it that we're not teaching people how to make these decisions on their own that's eventually going to reduce the workload? And so the door-to-door outreach, I believe, should be more along the lines um, of helping them understand the bigger picture from a variety of different perspectives, providing them the resources they need, telling them where they can go for critical components, rather than telling people who to vote for. And hoping over time that we will reduce our workload while increasing the amount of influence that we have in a particular issue. Political meetings and representation. We wish to encourage participation in political meetings and attend any of more possible. I want to be seen everywhere. I just can't be. And I want to be seen and I want to be able to network with other people. I want to know who the new leaders are, new podcasters are. I want to know what their topics are. I want to be able to help promote these people if I think they're worthy to be able to do the to be a part of who we are and to be able to help grow their influence as they might help to grow ours. Now, I could go off and maybe I should. The other parts of this are communication and education. I plan on providing a accessible information repository. Some people are saying like this, fire issue, right? Um, People are looking at the fires. And I keep saying it's not the fires you need to be concerned about. It's something else. And I can go into that later. But anyway, I think you guys are all with me on that. The important part of that is things just become, rather than people interested in facts, it's a matter of opinion. Oh, it's my opinion versus your opinion and all of that, in a total abandonment of the facts. Well, what I'd really like to do is to be able to have a repository where the information is actually posted along with the statements that are made. I don't see that anywhere. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. If it is, and somebody's doing it, I want to make sure that I'm going to do my best to promote it. If I'm traveling the state, the best thing I can do is to be able to inform people on all of the statewide resources available to them on a variety of different issues in hopes that they will plug in wherever they feel like they want to. And multi-perspective issue discussion, I talked about that a little bit earlier. Stepping outside of our echo chamber, the year-round education. The reason why I say year-round a couple of times is you'll see some of these groups are, and no offense to them, they found their niche. I didn't. It was up to me. And that was some undue frustration on my part that was wrongly applied. But I want to be able to do two things that I believe other people aren't doing. And I've waited a long time to be able to see how people were going to settle in and what they were going to do and what they weren't going to do before I decided to do what I wanted to do. And one of the things is year round. I want to travel year round. I want to be able to help educate people year round, and I want to be able to offer action items all year long. So some people focus only during the legislative session. Some people are only within a particular county. Some people are only within a certain issue and they don't go beyond that. Some people will only reach out to a certain group of people. Some people won't reach out to anybody beyond their circle of influence. There's all of these different sort of what I would call, because of my desire only, are significant limitations on growing something statewide. Uh, the other thing to consider where I think I might align with other people, and I'm going to try my best not to, but people have known me for being for blogging and doing videos and writing articles and videos and things. I will be doing that. Hopefully, I will be promoting other people and the work that they're doing. If I'm aware of it, on our resource page, you will see that. IFF, regardless of how you feel about them, I know a lot of people are like, Tom, what do you think about the IFF? There's good things that everybody is doing. And they had a legislature 101 class yesterday that was great. And that should be posted. And I think it's important that if people want to engage, because there were so many new people there yesterday, that they have the resources that they need to get involved. And by promoting good actions of other groups, we can do that. So I will be doing ongoing blogs and articles, but what I'd like to do is focus more about the issues of concern in a general way with all of the groups and what they're focusing on, talk about that. But I also want to be able to I also want to highlight some of the things that nobody else is talking about. If there's an issue happening somewhere in Dietrich, Idaho, for example, and they don't have a news source and a way to be able to talk about that abuse of the children or whatever it might be, it's very, very important to me that I reach out to every community in the state, develop leaders, find leaders, whatever, communicate periodically about what's going on so that they have a method of letting people know what else is going on statewide. And so, don't you want to know if children are being abused in Dietrich, Idaho for not having a permit for crossing a federal easement, which really did happen? I mean, nobody ever heard that. And I am sure when you dig into it, there's going to be instances like that almost in every town across Idaho. And it's time for us to be able to start figuring out what's happening and finding out what other people are having those same issues so that we can grow our influence against those things. And partnerships with media. I want to be able to partnership with all of the other podcasters, like I said. So other parts of this are collaboration and coalition building. I'm working with other organizations, I said, coalition development, which is forming alliances with leaders in various cities and counties to be able to do what I was just talking about. Roundtable discussions are huge. I mean, who's having those? The organizations should be meeting periodically to be able to discuss some of the issues or share it via email or whatever so that we have some sort of stronger network of things that are going on locally. And it's great that people are doing news and it's great that people are podcasting and it's great that they're doing all of that. But what I struggle with is the reason why I think that people's attempts are failing or are less successful than they should be is because they're not gaining the audience that they need to because people don't know how to find them. And there's been, it seems to me, we've all been interested in doing it. And people have said, well, Tom, why don't you do it? Why don't you go off on your own? Well, this organization is created because of you. This organization is created because I want to try to provide you with a mechanism to be able to do things in a way that they have never been done before in the state. So cross-political collaboration is important. We listen to talk radio and we want to be able to silence people that have different views than ours. I don't understand that at all. Um, but the cross-political collaboration is really, really important because we not only need to know one side of an issue, but we need to know the other side of the issue in order to be able to argue against their merits. And so for me, like Prop 1 was a big deal. You had people that supported it, and you had people that opposed it. And when I was out of politics for a while, I was frustrated because I'm like, although I know people and I know how to find the information, and I put on my hat of like just moving here, I was like, nobody seems to know anything about anything other than it's gonna turn us into a democratic state. There's got to be more to it than that. And I know there's been attempts to be able to create that outreach, but then again, if we can reach farther across the state with this type of information, we could start educating people on how to make better decisions that against or with the rhetoric that they're hearing already on the particular topic. The mission and vision is a commitment to the cause. It's acting according to the organization's mission and vision statements, which are on my website or on the Idaho Ripple Effect website. Statewide leadership and accountability, seeking committed members who will defend and promote the organization's goal. One problem we have is these ad hominem attacks about people, right? I was attacked by somebody just yesterday. Oh, you're just one of those. And I thought, I'm going to come find you and we're going to have a public discussion about this so that we'll allow people to be able to decide whether your statements are actually true or not, even though he thinks they are and they're not, because there's no merit to anything he's saying. And I'm seeing that as a common thread. Oh, well, people are this way and people are that way. That's not a commitment to the cause because we haven't either that or we haven't defined what the cause is. And maybe while we're trying to force people to adhere to the Constitution or the platform of the Republican Party, maybe we need to self-reflect and be able to look at the platform that we ourselves are trying to promote to other people. Freedom of speech, for example, is that something that people should be allowed to have? Or should we as liberty people that support our Constitution deny freedom of speech of others? And this is kind of the hypocrisy that I see that's really quite frustrating. So it's important for us to be able to have committed leaders that will actually defend liberty. And in this case, I'm asking people to be able to defend the organization's goals about who they are. I told you earlier that that organizations, I think IFF gets a lot of heat. And the one thing that I had recognized myself, in my own opinion, without any disrespect for others, is that people they are seen so many different ways, right? To strict constitutionalists, everybody loves them and they do a great job. And I know Ron and I know the organization and I know the work that they do, but there's a lot of things that are happening that are in question. And when an organization has people, enough people that questions the organization, we start to have problems. The unification starts to break down. The funding factor tends to decrease. A variety of different issues. It's very, very important for us, at least for me, to be able to safeguard the organization and its reputation and to be able to defend it. It's kind of like if you're a Christian, right? You should be able to defend your worldview against others, other religions, if you want to engage with other people. How many people are capable of doing that? If you are an American citizen, can you define what Americanism is to somebody that's not? These are the kinds of things that we hope to promote in an effort for us all to be elevated. The comprehensive worldview is important. The fact that we just look at fires as fires and it's all about fires is very, very short-sighted and it's extremely dangerous. It's kind of like when people vote for Brad Little because he has a cowboy hat on and he's a fifth generation Idahoan. Okay, number one, he's a Republican, check. He's got a cowboy hat, check. He's a fifth generation Idahoan, check. I'm voting for him. It's like, wait a minute, what about the historical side? And if there's a biblical side, fine. If there's a constitutional side, fine. And then my favorite is talking about connecting the dots, what I call conspiratorial perspectives that are added to the historical and current events issues. This is something that's completely in abandonment of most topics. Most people on the radio, now that they're seeing the fire issue, are now knowing it's political, but they don't understand that what FDR said, and the fact that if anything is political, you can bet it's planned that way. You see, so there, we all know that there's an underlying agenda. Our job is to be able to communicate the information that we have and connect the dots for other people so that they can see the bigger picture. And that's another thing about what I have always desired to do. So the action and support theme is about ongoing action items. It's important for us to not only figure out what kinds of actions are necessary and continually work on them, but supply a list of actionable steps for people through a variety of means, website, text alerts, and then tracking success. Most people like to complain. Less people like to do anything about it. And more so, and less than that, people just do not like to be held accountable for what they may not do. And so this is something that I believe is important if we're going to advance the cause. Community assistance is important. I want to help Idahoans address their local problems and provide solutions. I've always been about that. I've always been about helping people and showing up places and saying things and testifying and meeting with police chiefs and sheriffs and commissioners and legislators and all of that. There needs to be more of that, not less. And we all complain about lobbyists and all of that, but yet, but yet we only show up when we have a bill that's of concern. And I understand we all work and we're all busy, which is why there's a multitude of different ways to be able to support an organization that needs to be done, especially now, even during a Trump, even our new Trump era. So I would love to be able to supply members and perks and options, but I'm not there yet. This is a very new organization. The website is still under construction. But if you'll stick with me and you'll subscribe to the website and you see the advances that we're making, I will continually write blogs and post videos and things of that nature and try to be out more and meet with you. But it's very, very important for us that that we start working together. A lot of times people will see a leader or somebody in a jacket or a suit, or, they'll hear somebody on the radio and they'll hold them to a higher esteem or whatever. And I think what's really important, if you happen to be new to Idaho or you're new to politics or something, we're all just people. I've met all of the leaders that I can find in this state as new ones emerge. And they're all good people. They're all very well intentioned. They've all managed to find their niche, and I haven't done until I feel like now. So I'm a little late to the game, but they all need to be supported for the good work that they're doing. And you should be out there defending them if they are if wrong things are being said about them, while holding them accountable for the things that they tend to maybe not do well or do wrong. It's important for us to be able to have those relationships. I also want to be able to do candidate interviews, but it depends on how many other people are doing those. I have my idea on how that looks. So that's kind of going to be a kind of wait and see kind of a thing. The other part for me is going to be difficult because fundraising and support has never been a strength of mine. I've always just kind of figured the more active I am, the more willing people are going to be to donate, and I won't have to ask. Well, this organization is this organization is I've placed in my lap, and whether it succeeds or not is dependent on your support. If you can identify with the vision, you can identify with me, you can identify with what I hope to do. I'm hoping that you won't need me to ask you for your support. And if I don't need to ask you and you know me already and you're willing to support, you have the money, I would ask you to go to my donate page and sign up for periodic support. Help me spend more time out in the field rather than chasing, chasing financial support. We could be much more successful if I don't have to worry about whether the money is coming in to be able to fund a project or fund my ability to travel across the state to speak to a group of people. And this is why that part is so important. So in the following this video, you'll see blogs and you'll see more videos learning more about who we are and about what we do and how you can get involved and what we do specifically. So if you're interested in that, subscribe And I think there's a subscription button somewhere. I'm not really sure. To do that. And if you're still interested in doing the same thing over again, expecting a different result, um, or you're maybe not interested in doing the same thing, expecting a different result, then consider supporting our organization, as we hope to promote others. You can help us in a variety of ways. You can help us financially, like I mentioned. You can help us through expanding your circle of influence to help us expand ours. You can share our information with people that would like to challenge our worldview on issues. So if you know somebody that has a problem with me or our train of thought and the way that we are, I'm very, very interested in having that dialogue as long as people are not going to scream racist and all of those things. I want to bring um, um, uh, civic discourse back to center stage. The other thing you could do is contact me with your expertise or your passion, or tell me how you wish to get involved with us and allow us to work together. If you happen to be an expert in writing, grant writing, you happen to be an expert in public speaking, you happen to be a designer, you can do logos on websites, you can design brochures. I need you. I mean, we all need you. And I might be able to direct you to other groups when I find out what their needs are too, if we actually get that far. But there's one thing to remember, and people used to say this to me all the time that were John Birch Society members, and they're like, well, you guys don't do anything. I'm not going to continue to support an organization that doesn't focus on anything. You guys focus on national issues. You don't focus on local issues. And the other one is, Tom, you've been doing this a long time. Why don't you do this on your own? So here I am. We're focusing on the very issues that you've been concerned about. Now, if I remember who you are and you've been asking me why I'm not on my own, I'm going to share this video with you and say, here I am. And I'm going to adhere to what Kevin Costner said. And I think I paraphrase is, if I build it, they'll come. So I'm building it. Will you come? So the other thing to remember is we're only as successful as the effort we wish to invest in what we're passionate about. So if you're passionate about liberty and you want to be successful, I would encourage you to be able to support the organization that you feel like fits your interests the best. And if you have other cash to be able to throw to other organizations, I encourage you to be able to do that. Just because Trump is in office, if he doesn't get incarcerated or whatever today, we're not out of the woods here. We've got federal issues that are problematic. We all know that. But the one thing is that we have state issues that are problematic as well, and we don't need to go far to be able to learn what those are. So it's important for us to be able to take this time to be able to organize in a way that we've never organized and hope for something much better than we've ever done before by increasing our influence statewide. So I appreciate you guys' time in listening to my video. I hope to God it isn't too long. And I guess I should say in closing, I am Tom Munz. I'm the executive director of the Idaho Ripple Effect, and I approve this message. Thanks.